Let's run the game. So it gives the player a bit of time to get ready before the game starts. So here is the fuel, where it refill your fuel. You need to dodge the spikes so that if you hit the spike, the game will be over. So when you hit the fire, your fuel will decrease. So the game will not end until you hit the spike or the fuel runs out. So that's all for the game. Alright. So
Okay, so this is for the fire part. So this class checks for if the obstacle is a fire, and it checks from the obstacle class. And so basically what this does is uh, it shows the position of the fire, where is it, and if it's less than 200, then the fire will not appear. And then for the fuel part, so basically this is the initializers, and then this shows the fuel level that returns the amount of the fuel. And this is for collecting the fuel, where if you collect a fuel, it plus 100, and the maximum amount for the fuel is 200, so it will not go above that. And when the player hits the fire, the fuel amount will decrease by 20, and if it's 0 or less, the player will die. And this is for rendering the fuel, so the color is set to red. And this is uh, the fuel bar. This is a calculation for the fuel bar. And then this is for the sub fuel, where it will decrease the amount of fuel by overtime.
So this is the game manager. As you hear, this will show the game, the title. This is the PNG for start, and this is the background, which is the brakes. And this is the render floor, which the motorbike is located at.
So this is the obstacle, the header file. So this is everything here, the position of the obstacle and whether the obstacle is visible, its speed, and also its type, where 0 is spike, 1 is fire, and 2 is fuel. There's also a boolean here to check if it's fire and check if it's fuel. So this is the default constructors, the initializers here. It returns the type, this returns the positions, and this renders the obstacle. So as you can see, the obstacle type randomly by chance it can happen that it's a spike, it's a fire, or it's a fuel. If it's a spike, it generates a spike image, and it sets the other's value, its fire and its fuel, to false. If it's fire, then it generates fire image, and if it's fuel, it generates the fuel image, but it sets the Y level a bit above, so the player has to jump to get the fuel. And this is the array of objects that's used. It uses static array, so the obstacles can all be used here all at once. So this is for the player file. Here we have the bool alive, fuel level, jump, and speed. So here you can see there's some composition going on. And if we set the time to 0, this is for rendering the player. And this checks if the player is jumping. If the player is jumping, it changes the player character into this one when it's in the air. So it just checks for collision. If the obstacle is at a certain position and the player is not jumping, and also the obstacle is not a fire and it's not fuel, then which means it's a spike, then it renders game over and types out you survive for the amount of time you survive in game ticks. And then it sets the page to the game over page, which is this page. Then if it hits fire when it's not jumping, then it goes to fuel, hit fire, which, as explained earlier, subtracts the fuel. Else, if it's jumping and it's a fuel, then it collects the fuel, which increases the fuel bar. So here's the jump command, which uses gravity and sets the pitch to 0, which is going to be used for the frame double buffer. So it checks for the key space for jumping. Then if it's at a certain level, it goes back down. And then once it hits 0, the jumping is turned back to 0. And then this is for clearing each frame and setting back all the background and the UI, everything, and also the floor.
Right, so this is the file for the spike. So this is the default constructor and also the other constructor. And this is the function for it is spike. So you will see the spike in the game. And this is the function to check if the player collide with the obstacle. Okay. So that's it for the spike file. Now for the UI. So we have the timer and fuel bar attribute. So here you can see the UI, timer, fuel bar. Also the show UI function. Yeah, just basically that one. It show the timer in the game. Yeah, that's all.